Welcome back to Just Between Us. It's time for topics.
XXXXXXX, baby.
Baby. So this is, I didn't even realize, fitting with a history lesson episode of Just Between Us.
Oh, that's true.
I thought we could talk a little bit about memories because I find them very confusing and misleading.
I have a terrible memory.
Me too.
I went back and read my old diaries from high school. There's whole groups of friends and people that I fully do not remember.
Mm-hmm.
There's some memories that like super stick out from childhood and then some that I just like, I don't know where they went. I've started keeping journals now because I can't remember anything. I went back and read some stuff about like exes of mine and what I wrote about them and how much I like cared about them. And I'm like, that is so confusing to me. I feel like I just start each day like 51st dates. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what happened yesterday. I couldn't tell you. But then certain things are just like seared into my memory.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because your memory is, I know it's going to sound dumb, as you remember it, right? I'll remember my house growing up, the house we moved out of when I was 14 or 15. But when I see pictures of it, it's like I remembered certain things correctly and certain things not correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's sort of jarring to see the ways in which I viewed things was different than what it actually looked like.
I have a horrible memory. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really remember my childhood.
But do you think that this is because we both had traumatic childhoods?
I don't know, because it's somewhat genetic. My dad and my sister both have really bad memories too.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because my mom keeps bringing up like trips we went on and I'll be like, no, I don't remember that. But you know what I do remember is I do remember feeling safe. I do remember being taken care of. I do remember being given opportunities and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so maybe not the specifics, but I remember the feeling of it. I've heard like interviews with people who like can remember everything and it's horrible.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
there's something that is like almost like a prison in being able to remember everything.
I think I'm protecting myself for sure. I think I don't remember a lot of stuff. And like, there's a lot of therapy to be like, well, you could go back and you could remember things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm fine. Like, I don't need to remember it. If I don't remember it, I'm sure my brain is doing me a favor.
Well, I feel with my OCD that I am, you know, I'm so terrified of lying or misleading. And so with memory, especially, that's like kind of a real issue for me because I already don't trust my memory.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll say a story and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I'll say
Yes.
a story and then I'll immediately be like, but maybe that didn't happen.
Yes.
Or
Or
like,
you go,
I don't know.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
You'll say something and then you'll go, I don't know if that's true.
I know.
Yeah.
And I really struggle with my memories, you know, and something that was interesting was, you know, I'm in this class about trauma and we were kind of talking about repressed memories. And I was sort of like surprised to hear that my teacher really does believe in them and thinks that that is a thing and that they can sort of reappear and stuff. And I sort of brought up the issue that we kind of talked about in the Satanic Panic episode about a lot of repressed memories end up being proven not true. And so I was sort of like, well, how do you know if your client is remembering a real memory or a fake memory? And she was sort of like, well, it's real to them, so I treat it as if it is real.
Whoa. That's one way to look at it. I'm sure other people disagree.
In a way, it's like, regardless of if it's true or not, if that's how you remember something, you're relating to the world as if that's how it happened.
Well, even true is kind of hard. Multiple people can see something happen and remember it totally different ways. I find that with like the true crime podcasts I listen to, how often people will describe the same suspect totally differently, or they'll end up with like multiple sketches, or someone will be like, this is what happened, then this in terms of like as a witness. And witness testimony is like so subjective and so hard to use in terms of like catching someone or finding, you know, the root of what happened in a trial. Like everyone has their own view of what happened. You and someone else could see the exact same thing happen and come away with completely different ideas of what happened. And that's what's so hard in relationships too, right? Like if you break up, you know, you each have your own side of like what happened.
My thing is like, you know, do I just throw out like the entire time I was with Jake? You know, because those memories are now like kind of painful.
Right.
And so like, do I just like not let myself think about all those memories, you know, and like.
Maybe for a while don't.
Yeah. And then do you return to the memories? You know, how much of it was true? Like, also, like, I'm sure my version of a relationship is completely different than his version of the relationship. It's interesting in that, like, talking to my therapist the other day about, like, how do I move forward? And she was like, part of moving forward is creating new memories. Is like not having him be such a big part of my brain through creating new memories with other people and doing other things. And, and it was interesting that she phrased it as memories versus experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you go to sleep with your memories. You're not like at a party as you fall asleep. Whoa.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too to like rewrite stuff. Like I remember when I was breaking up with Garrett, I was upset and I was like, everything was perfect. I can't understand this, blah, blah, blah. And I remember you were like, 2 weeks ago, you thought something he did was corny and stupid. And I was like,
that? See, I don't remember.
Kind of, yeah. And I was like, what? And you were like, yeah, I don't want to say specifically what it was, but you were like, yeah, like 2 weeks ago, you said something was annoying. And I was like, oh, like you know what I mean? Like you rewrite everything.
Or you give priority to things to fit your narrative. I think that's really it, right? So if you're mad at someone, then all you remember is the bad things. If you miss someone, all you remember is the good things. And then I think also like memory is this thing where like it does not stay the same. Like every time that you return to it, you almost like lose a layer of it or it becomes something else or you shift and so it becomes even less close to the truth. And then the memories that are just, I think I've talked about this on the podcast, but so my sister has been adamant that like we had a pet turtle.
What?
No one in my family remembers having a pet turtle. And we were like, that's weird, Joss, like whatever. And I think that's what happened. Again, who knows? I might be remembering this wrong.
Right.
But then we were watching a home video and there was a video of us with this turtle. And it was like a pretty big turtle and its name was Theresa, which I know is weirdly your middle name.
Whoa.
And like my parents were sitting there watching video evidence of the fact that we had this turtle.
Oh
and they were like,
God.
do you remember this? And neither of them had any memory of this turtle. And my sister was like, yeah, I totally remember the turtle. And we were like, what happened to the turtle? And she was like, oh, okay, so one day we lost it in the house. That doesn't make any sense. Like, we just assumed that we just like let our turtle get lost in the house, died and decayed, and we just like never attended to it again. Like, how could that be the reality? But that's all that she remembers, and none of us even remember the turtle.
Oh my God.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
And so, like, since we've watched these whole movies, like a month ago, like we occasionally will be like, what happened to Theresa? Like, where is Theresa?
Wait, I want merch that just says what happened to Theresa with a picture of a turtle. I want a shirt that says what happened to Theresa? WHTT. What happened to Theresa?
As an adult now, if I was to say to Jocelyn, like, if I told you that I just lost a turtle in my house and then went, oh, well, I've lost my turtle, would you be like, that can't be? Like, but because she remembers that, she's like, yeah, we just lost the turtle and that was it.
Your dad absolutely got rid of the turtle.
Not even outside. We lost it inside the
Your dad
house.
absolutely got rid of that turtle and lied about it. That's a Ken Raskin move.
I know, but he doesn't remember.
You think he's lying about that?
No. Maybe he blocked it. Maybe he felt bad that he like just told Joss we lost Theresa in the house. I don't know. And also what the best part of that video was, so my grandma was in it and my grandma was like, saying that like, oh, this turtle is like pretty boring. And then both my mom and my sister get so defensive and I was like, it's not boring. It actually does. Blah, blah, blah.
Was your sister so vindicated?
Maybe. But then, yeah, I don't know. Because to her, the turtle always existed.
Right. I had a thing like this where I have very distinct memories of my dad in the late 80s, early 90s wearing...
Late 80s. You were like 2 years. You were like
I was
under
2 years old, so I probably don't have. But like I've seen pictures too. But like in the 90s, my dad wearing primarily very short shorts and almost like crop toppy tops.
Yeah.
It came up because Mal was talking about their dad, who's like kind of a big, like gruff, like New York guy. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. And Mal was like, No, it's not weird. That's a typical dad. Like your dad is like an effeminate European father. And I was like, yeah, I guess. So I was like, okay, he wore a lot of short shorts and crop tops. And my dad was like, no, I didn't.
But then you found them, right?
We found pictures of him dressed like that.
That's
and
so
I was
funny.
like, that's what you wore all the time. Like, I remember you outside, like pruning the trees in like little shirts and short shorts and Adidas sandals and sometimes like a gator's visor. And he was like, no. And then we found pictures of them.
Totally. But then it's like so disorienting, right? Because it's like, what does matter? Does what actually happened matter? Or is your version of what happened matter? You know, and like, will you ever figure it out? And like, but there is like a lot of theory in like some schools of psychology where like they'll ask you to recount like 3 childhood memories. And then they think that like what it is that you remember is actually like very revealing of who you are.
Really?
And it has to be like true childhood. And probably a lot of people, depending, might only have 3, you know, or might only have a handful. And so like that is like a way into like getting to know someone's psyche is like through what their like distinct childhood memories are.
Or what you're told by your parents.
No, it has to be something you remember.
You remember. Well, I mean, how much are you influenced by what your parents told you? Because it can create narratives. Like I'm sure Cheyenne truly believes she was a bad kid, which I don't know if she actually was. Or like, you know, I think we have like things that are told to us about us and then they start to form as memories in our brains.
Totally.
And we're like, yeah, that is what happened. It's so bizarre.
Yeah,
like
it's spooky.
What you remember, what you don't. And that's why I like documenting things, actually. I've really started to watch a lot of old home videos. And like I was in the hospital when I was in 3rd grade for like a month. And I asked my mom for all the documents from when I was in the hospital because I wanted to know. Like I was like, what happened? And she can kind of recount it to me. But I was like, I want to see like what the doctors actually thought and like what the situation was. And she's going to hate this. This must be so hard to be a parent when your kid is just like remembers only the bad things you said. Like when you're like, I gave them such a good childhood and all they remember is that one time I said they had a unibrow and now they have a complex about having a unibrow. Sorry, Mom. So there was like a part of the documents where the doctor, I was like 8 and the doctor was like, she seems depressed and like gives like a recommendation for me to go to therapy. And my mom did not remember that at all. And I was like,
so interesting.
But it says like that I should be in therapy. And I was like, did I go to therapy? And she's like, no. He's like, but it felt vindicating to me to realize that this sort of depression or like, you know, manic depression or whatever goes back that far. She goes, no, you weren't depressed. You were just sick. So they thought you were depressed. And I was like, I don't think that's true.
But we'll never know, right?
I know. Our poor parents, like, I feel like they probably wish that they could cherry pick what we remember and not like the one time that they did. You know what I mean? I feel bad. And there's no way to win as a parent, I think.
But again, I remember the support. I remember the general feeling of being safe, even if I don't remember our trip to Canada.
You went to Canada?
Apparently. No. I remember a little bit of that one, but there's other things where I'm like, we went where? What?
Yeah. But I think it's good. I think sometimes it's good to not press too hard because sometimes things are kept for you for a reason. And that's the only way you can move forward. If I remembered every rejection I've gotten on my work, I would like never work again.
Yeah. Melissa, want to come on in and tell us about your memory?
I have a very good memory. And I realized early on that my memory was so good that I had to stop judging people for not remembering things the way that they happen. Like my memory is like excellent. Sometimes it has to be like triggered by something, but like for instance, I'm on this subreddit where they just post nostalgia things, and yesterday I found this like Scooby-Doo icy making thing and that I had when I was 4. And I sent the picture to my mom, and I can distinctly remember us like sitting in our kitchen. And because I moved around so much as a kid, I always remember what house I was in. So it's like a good timestamp for everything. I distinctly remember us in the kitchen churning this thing, eating, and it would make a mess. And my mom's like, why are you sending this to me? Or just,
she doesn't remember.
Or even just conversations like that I had last week with somebody. And I remember exactly where I was sitting, how the conversation went, and they don't remember the conversation.
Wow. Is it hard to have a good memory?
Yeah, it's hard because I remember a lot of things and other people don't.
How do you convince them?
Well, I say what the whole conversation was. Like, I can go through every beat of what the conversation was.
Is it hard to still feel so close to bad memories?
It really is, because sometimes I can't let go of things because I know exactly how they transpired and I can't forget. It's a burden and a curse.
But also, I mean, obviously it makes you very observant.
Yeah.
And like you probably retain knowledge a lot better.
For the most part, it's not anything that I've read. I have to like live through it, or it has to be said.
Do you bother trying to convince people that like what things happened, or is it just endlessly frustrating?
I know that I'm right all the time, and people know that I'm right a lot, and I hate saying that, but it's the truth. Like, I'm right most of the time because I remember what happened.
Yeah.
And so like they'll realize later, like, oh yeah, that's what happened, or yeah, that's what I said. And it's like, I know, because that's what happened.
Oh my God.
So my mom feels similarly, where she's the only one with a good memory. And I can see that it's hurtful to her that all these things have happened that we don't remember. And I've seen a few exchanges with her and my dad about things where like these big memories to her, like important moments in their relationship, he just doesn't remember.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I find that people are too anxious and looking toward the future while things are happening. So I've been trying really hard actually to like be in the moment so that I do remember things, and trying to like take in things on purpose. Like Mal and I were like dancing in the living room and I was like, remember this. There's so many formative parts of the beginning of our relationship that I was so anxious about if we were going to end up together that I like wasn't in the moment. And I was reading this book called When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron, which I recommend if you're interested in the moment mindfulness.
Yeah, I mean, I know that when and it's kind of proven that like when you're in a traumatic situation, your like memory doesn't really work as well. I knew that like in the last conversation I ever had with Jake, I took notes.
You did?
I took notes on my phone so that because I knew that everyone would ask me what he had said. I knew that I would have to like go back, and I knew that I could not trust myself. So as he was telling me pretty much the most hurtful stuff I've ever heard in my life, I was sitting there taking notes on my phone so that I would have it and that I could trust myself that that's what he had said, you know?
Yes. You should. I like to record conversations.
Oh, that's creepy.
No,
do they know that you're recording?
Yes, you ask. Yes, you ask.
Okay.
But sometimes it's interesting. Okay, I don't know if this is good advice, but sometimes if you're in a relationship and you're not sure if like you're being gaslit or something,
yes, then it is very good to record.
And sometimes you should secretly record, and then go back over it because you're not sure if you're being manipulated. I don't know if that's good. Don't quote me, but it's worked.
Just between